Greetings and salutations, it's BiggieJDM, and today we're going to service the FN2. Let's go. Okay, so what we're going to need for this is we're going to need obviously some oil, we're going to need an oil filter, we're going to need some tools, we're also going to need a jack stand, and possibly a ratchet and a spanner, depending if we get to the plugs, possibly a screwdriver, flat or Phillips head. Just the normal domestic tools that you have. So let's get cracking and let's see how far we get. Let's go. So after doing some research, to do this, it's better to take off the right wheel to gain access to the oil filter. So I start by getting a 90mm socket on the end of a breaker bar and start cracking those bolts off. Admittedly, I use a cordless wrench to take the bolts off, which I shouldn't have done that until the car was in the air. Nevertheless, we're all learning and I'll know this for next time. Now, you should never trust just the jack to keep the car in the air. Always put an axle stand underneath to keep the car secure so you can work safely underneath. Right, so we're on the floor. As you can see, by taking that wheel off, we've got a much better view of the underside of the engine. So what we want to do is we want to find out where that sump plug is, and we want to find out where, sorry, I know it's scabby, but it's what it is. We need to find out where the oil filter is and then go from there. Let's go. Right, so I'm not sure if you can see, but there's the oil filter. That's what I can see. I think the only way to get that off, that's going to drain all underneath here, isn't it? So the only way to get that off is to probably get a screwdriver in that and pull it down. So now we've located the oil filter, it's time to get that sump plug off. And because this hasn't been moved in years, we sprayed some WD-40 just to loosen it up. And we got a 17mm socket and finally undone the bolt. We used just a regular bucket to catch the oil, but you can use anything you desire. Right, so that's the sump plug off. Like, well, I was trying to turn it the opposite way, but I remember the bolt's opposite way, so you have to turn it anti-clockwise, yes, not uncle-clockwise. However, what I didn't mention is you have to normally take off the oil cap. So I've took the oil cap off to help the flow of oil, I guess. That's my Armstrong. Sorry, I know, no shade. Anyway, what I should have done is turn the wheel to the side to give me more or better access. You can see this is right in the middle. Also, what I'm going to do while I'm here is I'm going to just grease these bolts down with WD-40 because you know I'm going to change the suspension, right? You know one of these days I'm going to change the suspension, so I'm just going to start by putting WD-40 on those bolts. It doesn't look like they've been changed in ages. If I get coilovers, I need to take them off. So, you know, just forward thinking, maybe some WD-40 on the bleed nipple as well, you know, from experience, that's it. So let's just carry on with this and let's get that oil filter off. Let's go. So I'm not sure how Honda specialists usually do this, but what I did was get the longest screwdriver I had and knock it through the oil filter to gain some leverage so I could actually turn it with my hand. Once loose, I put a rag over the drive shaft to stop the loose oil from dripping into places which I couldn't clean basically, and then loosened the oil filter off with my hand. We got there in the end, but it was a bit of a dirty process. To install a new oil filter, you get some fresh oil and to wet the rim so it's easy to remove the next time. And it was a bit of a fiddly job to get it aligned, but once in place, you rotate clockwise to screw the new oil filter on. And unless you've got a tool to tighten it, we just used our hand to tighten it with as much force as possible. Right, so I think that's actually done the job now. I've done it as tight as I can, even grazed myself, really grazed myself. It doesn't matter though, because I think that as oil filter is on as tight as it can be. And it doesn't really need to be on like mega tight, but it's on hand tight, which I guess I've always been told that, but you know, we'll see how it goes. Right, next thing to do, I need to Google how much oil I'm putting in the car now. I've decided to go with 1040 fully synthetic because I think it's a thicker oil and it needs it. Now I put that in my GC8 track car Admittedly, I didn't do any research prior to attempting this service, so we don't actually know, well, I don't know what the recommended is, but I'm just going to go with 1040 anyway. But you tell me, what oil should I have gone with? What do you recommend for your FN2 or your K20 engine? I better put the sump plug on. I forgot to do that, didn't I? Yes, better put the sump plug back on first. Or was it just going to drain out the bottom? Imagine that. Yo, did I say no? Anyway, yes, put the sump plug back on, and then we're going to put the oil in the car. Let's go. So after observing the location of the oil filler cap, I have ascertained it's in a difficult place to actually pour the oil in without spilling it if you don't have a funnel. Can you see this? This is supposed to come off. Underneath this is a little metal plate, which is also going to come off. Now I've lifted it up a little bit and I can see where it's supposed to come off in order to have better access to pour the oil in. But then if I do that, I may as well change the plugs, haven't I? So we're going to start by taking this metal guard off the FN2. To do this, there's 3 bolts on the outer and 2 bolts on the inner, all are 10mm. So I start by unscrewing those bolts, and then there's a final bolt connected to the chassis which I just left in. Once all of the bolts are undone, I just dragged out the metal panel, but just be careful not to disturb the brake fluid reservoir. But in this case, I just unscrewed the filler cap, and that gave clearance to pull the panel out. So that didn't go too bad. I did snap a bolt, which means the bolt was probably rusted, which also means that spine is huge. Yeah, snapped a bolt, which means that cover hasn't been off for a while, which also means that them plugs in this car must have not been changed for a good amount of time. So let me change them. So to get access to the core packs, we remove the cover, which is 4 10mm bolts, and then we remove the bolt holding the core packs in place, which will then give us the opportunity to unclip the wiring loom and remove the coil packs. Right, so we've got one spark plug out, and I'm no spark plug expert, but to me they look burnt out. Look at that. Burnt. Can I just get you out of the sun a minute? Right, burnt. Look at that. Can you see that? It says on them BKR7EIX on the spark plug. Little did you know. Wait for it. BKR7EIX, which means I'm psychic. So I'm going to replace one at a time. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, let's go. However, though, there's a bit of a silly design. Who would have put the VIN number plate right on top of where you've got to take the spark plugs out? That means this extension is going to be knocking against that. Oh, wait there. No, it's not. It needs to sit flush. So we start replacing all the spark plugs in the engine. Now, I've got a bit of a routine to this. I take out one core pack at a time, remove the old plug, install the new plug, then put it back together. I do this so I know which ones I've done and which ones I haven't already done. I used to wrench just to loosen the tension, and then my fingers to loosen the spark plug. Once loose, I use a magnet extender to remove the spark plug, and I do the same in reverse. I like to fasten the spark plug finger tight so the threads don't cross. Once I feel a bit of tension, I use the wrench to tighten it up. In order to remove the spark plug, you do need a spark plug remover, and for this occasion I'm using a 3/4 wrench with a 3/4 extension. And then refasten the clips back onto the core packs, and then use those 10mm screws to fasten the core packs down, and then reinstall the cover, and then that's it, job done. Right, so that's it, that's the engine and the plugs all put back together. Now there's no oil in the car. Purposely I haven't put any oil in the car because it's on a slant, and that's not going to give me an accurate reading. So what I need to do before I put everything back together, that little firewall thing that was that plastic and metal cover that was on top of the plugs, and before the rain comes, common sense tells me to put the car back down on the axle stands, put the oil in, start the car to make sure it starts up fine, and then put it back together. So that's what I'm gonna do. See you in a minute. So I did exactly what I said I was going to do. I first of all aligned the steering wheel so the wheel can go on directly to the hub, and then put the wheel nuts on with my finger, and then use a cordless wrench to buzz them on tight. But this isn't secure. I had to then remove the axle stand, jack the car down, and get the breaker bar, which you don't see in the video, to torque the nuts back up properly. So after doing some research, the recommended oil capacity is 4.5 litres with an oil filter change, which we did. As we didn't preload the oil filter with oil, we just put in 4.5 litres in, leaving it to stand, then checking the dipstick. Right then, moment of truth. I'm going to start this car up. I have to start it up. If it doesn't start up, well no, it is going to start up and it's going to be fine. Let's speak it into being. Let's go. So I start the car, listen out for any knocks, any bangs, any misfires, anything that I could have done to disturb the engine. But it seems the engine is running fine. I get underneath just to check to see if there's any leaks, in case I may have not screwed the oil filter tight enough or fastened the sump plug correctly. You never know. But given how the car sounded before, everything seems to check out okay. The car sounds fine. It has a nice idling sound. This could be a big win for us. That is a big win. That is a huge win. It started up first time, no hesitation, no leaking from underneath the car. Let's put everything back together again. I'm not going to bore you with that because it's just reverse order for what I actually did. And that's it. We serviced the car, we changed the oil filter. There's other stuff you can do, particularly filter, air filter. Well, it doesn't need an air filter because it's also got a Piper Cross induction kit on it, so it doesn't need that. And I think that's about it really. We don't need to change anything else. If you think I do need to change something else, I saw somebody change something around at the dashboard, underneath the dash near the gearbox behind there. It's like a little panel filter thing which pulls out. I don't know what it is. If you know what it is, tell me please. I really need to know. Do I need to change it on my FN2? Tell me. And that's about it for now. If you can't, be careful, like, share, subscribe. Big up yourself. Tell someone that you love them before you go to bed, and enjoy your Hondas. Yes.